we get too far behind the things that we need to cover, okay? If we then, then you've all of a sudden got the Sabbath and the state of the dead and diet, all that stuff. And it becomes too much. So we want to do our best to visit once a week. The other thing is, don't visit more than that, because then it becomes too much. They've never met us before in their life, and I'm showing up at their house twice in the same week. You see, you're going to feel a little weird about that, right? So once a week, and particularly if they're coming to the meetings regularly. Once a week we do the visit. Now the reason you'll see here that Carolyn got visited more than that is because she made a decision to get baptized, and so now we're getting her ready for baptism, and obviously we've got the permission to visit much more in that setting when somebody's made a decision for baptism and we're getting them ready. Okay? Alright, let's go back to the report form because we've got 3 more columns to talk about. Visitation, you know how to do that. A letter, and then a meeting number, not the date. Middle column there says interest level. You can ignore that right now. You don't have to worry about that. I'll take time to do that next week. The next column lists decision. This is where, when you clear them on the gospel, if they understand they're saved by faith in Jesus, you will write, when you leave that visit and drive down the road so they can't see you writing, you're going to write in that column the letter C. Please look at the right-hand side on the bottom of your sheet there, okay? It lists decisions. It gives you the letter, the abbreviation, and it gives you what that stands for. C stands for accepts Christ. S stands for accepts the Sabbath. K, keeps the Sabbath. P, Sabbath problem. When you're clearing someone on Sabbath and you say, is there anything that would prevent you from keeping the Sabbath? They say, I'd love to keep the Sabbath, but I have to work. Okay? That's a Sabbath problem. We need to know about that. We need to help them through their problems. So we put down a P. B means they want to be baptized. T stands for tobacco or an addiction. A stands for the second advent. D is death. And U is unite with the church. So you can see all that there. Alright? Now, the last column for remarks. If there's anything in that visit that you think would be helpful for me to know about this person, write it in that remarks section, because I read through all of this. The other thing is, if you find out that, maybe their name was spelled wrong, correct the spelling. Sometimes you're going to find out the address was put wrong. Maybe you got an apartment number and the apartment number was entered wrong, or they couldn't read what was written down. And you'll go knock on apartment number 9, and someone will answer the door and you'll say, "Hi, Susie." And she said, "Oh, I'm not Susie. Susie lives next door." Okay? So that's the kind of stuff that we need to put in the remarks section to help us update our database and get it accurate. Alright? Any questions on the report form? How I want you to fill it out, okay? And so you fill that thing out and drop it off for me to put in the computer. Now, I can't be running around collecting these things. And I don't even want you bringing them to me before the meeting, obviously not during the meeting and not right after the meeting. Because before the meeting, I'm concentrating on being prepared for the presentation. Afterwards, after a few nights, I come out, I start talking to people. I start trying to get to know people, all right, after 2 or 3 nights. So that, and we don't, it's a little awkward, for you to come up in front of all the crowd of people and say, "Oh, here's my visitation report, Pastor." And the same thing, we don't do any of this out in front of the crowd. We don't, do registration booklets and sift through names, Adventists, non-Adventists, out there in front of all the people. We find somewhere away, out of sight, behind somewhere to do that. And we don't talk about our visitation lists and carry them around on top of our Bibles at the meetings and do stuff like that either, okay? So fill that out, and I'm trying to think who is going to be our best, what's the best way to handle this. I'm just just trying to think, should I designate one person or should I have each of the different pastors be responsible to collect it? Give me some guidance on
the
that.
latter. Steve.
Frank, you're saying what? 2 people?
Give the second.
The second one? Okay, so please give your report to your pastor of your church. In my case, don't give it to me, give it to Eric. And then they will be responsible to get the report to me for putting into the database and going through, so I begin to have a sense for what those people are doing. Okay? Any questions about these 2 pieces of paper? This is critical stuff, okay? This is absolutely critical. I'm going to get to know the people through you and what you do and what you write on these, and it helps us keep track of where people are in their decision process and what we need to do with them. So I need to get these reports, and what I will want them is I will want a visitation report on our Friday night meeting or our Thursday night meeting. So how it works is at the end of the week and at the end of the weekend. So after we visit, I don't need them every day, but after we visit Sabbath and Sunday at Sunday night's meeting or at Monday night's meeting, but preferably earlier the better, Sunday night's meeting, I'd like to get a report. You give your pastor your report of what happened over the weekend, they'll get it to me. Then, as we visit during the week, sometimes our first meeting back is going to be Friday night. Sometimes it's going to be Thursday night. Whichever of those 2 nights it is, turn in the report, okay? Give it to your pastor. So 2 times a week. At the end of the week and at the end of the weekend. I'll put that data into the computer, and by the time you get your next visitation list, you'll have it updated. Because what I want to do is, if I get the visitation list Sunday night, we get that all in the database. Typically we have a meeting on Monday night. When you get your new visitation list, all the visits that you did on the weekend will be accounted for on that list. You'll see all that information will be there. Same thing at the end of the week. When you get your visitation list for the weekend, all the week's visit will be entered there. Okay. Again, any questions on this?
I don't have a question on that, but just I'm just trying to learn or understand.
Yeah.
My sense is you are doing a lot of this analysis yourself. And I thought you had, well, maybe that's how you guys are organized, that you are doing a lot of it yourself versus in collaboration with the other pastors.
Oh, we're going to have meetings and discuss it all. And everybody's going to have the information. The pastors will all get a list, they'll see what's going on. But as the reaping specialist, as the speaker, and as the person who is kind of in charge of making sure what's happening with all these people, I've got to go over it carefully myself.
Yeah, and to be clear, where I'm going to is that it tells me the magnitude or what is expected.
Yeah.
The fact that if you're doing this alone, it tells me we were expecting a small number. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can't do it all by myself. That's why this is so critical. Having all of us committed to this is so critical, because we have the numbers are way bigger than I can do all by myself. And like I said before, if I do this all by myself, then everybody's going to connect to me, and they're not going to connect to people in the churches, and that's where we want them to connect with you guys and have that connection. Okay, everybody stand up. We're all falling asleep. Let's stand up. Take 30 seconds with me here. Reach for the ceiling.